The answers that's given to questions, and then you've got to nip in with a supplementary question because it's something you weren't expecting him to say. Let's begin on a seasonal note, Neal. Football, it's not an easy time of year for you, is it, Christmas? So what sort of a family Christmas, if at all, are you looking forward to later this month?
Both Coxie and myself will be trying to get back Christmas Eve, have Christmas Day with our families, and then leaving at probably 6 o'clock in the morning on Boxing Day to get back for the game. So that's probably the only day throughout the whole holidays that we can be back with our fixture list. A couple of 6-7 years ago when we first took over at Wimbledon, we rushed back for the Boxing Day game. Coxie was actually trying to shovel the snow off the pitch that day, and the game got called off, and we had no food in our flat. We had no decorations. We went back on Boxing Day, sat in our flat, and you would never have known it was Christmas in a million years. We were just sitting there with the telly and no food, couldn't go out and get any, and no decorations.
And were you and he sharing a house or a flat at that time?
Yeah, we only just been in the job for a couple of months, and we're doing that again now, yes.
And you told me last week that you're the cook.
That is correct, I am the cook. Coxie's role is the washer-upper.
What's been for dinner tonight?
Tonight we went for simple because we had this dude to come to, so we went with a very a la carte pizza and Caesar salad.
Now, whatever any of us have done in life, we've all had somebody who has inspired us, who set us on our way, who's made sure that we developed in the right way. In your case, it was your dad. And your dad actually formed a youth football club to help you on your way. That was an amazing thing for him to do. He'd not been a pro footballer, he wasn't really involved in the game at all, but suddenly, there you are, playing for your dad's youth team.
Yeah, I think it all dawned on him one day when I played for a Sunday team, and he said I scored a really good goal, and he looked round to see the manager's reaction, and the manager was rolling a cigarette with his back turned to the game, and it angered him that much that he decided from that moment on he would sort of form a team and run it himself so that he could keep an eye on me. But when I got to that tender age of 15, 16, when all your friends and pals start going out and coming home a bit later on a Saturday night and you're at a Sunday football club, I had a strict curfew on me, and if I was ever a minute late, we had a semi-final of a cup once, and I turned up about 5 minutes after my curfew and he left me at the team.
So he wasn't soft with you?
No, and he wasn't soft with me even as a player. He was still hard. I remember playing for Wimbledon away at Arsenal at Highbury, and it was the year after I think France had just won the World Cup, and their midfield pairing was Patrick Vieira and Emmanuel Petit, who were the best two centre midfielders in the world at the time. And we had a bit of a makeshift team, and I normally played right midfield, but I played centre midfield that day. Never got a kick, never laid a glove on, and we lost 5-0 in the game. And on the way home, he just, in front of two friends, proceeded to tell me how embarrassed he was at my performance, and wouldn't let me explain that I was up against the best players in the world that day.
But you were, certainly. But when you signed for Wimbledon in the first place, well, a lot of this is about Wimbledon. When you signed for Wimbledon, you were actually with the Carshalton Boys Sports College. What are your earliest memories of life at Plough Lane, which is where Wimbledon then played? What are your memories of being at Plough Lane?
I never got to play at Plough Lane. I made my debut the last season at Plough Lane, but I played away from home at Aston Villa. I think it was against Coxie. Plough Lane was a sort of place where back then with Wimbledon they used to leave the heating off in the opposition's dressing room, make it cold for them, make sure they had no toilet roll in there, so stuff like that. And whenever the players of the opposition used to turn up there to walk past the home dressing room, very thin, narrow dressing room to get there, and used to have at that point John Fashion, who would come out with his top off, looking like a heavyweight boxer, and just make sure everyone got a view of what they was about to face, and Vinnie Jones would be effing and blinding behind him. So that's the way Brow Lane rolled. And as a ball boy at that time, as a young lad coming through, we used to, and an apprentice, you used to just look at the opposition, and I think half the time they'd had them beat by then.
And of course there are managers since who've played those sort of tricks, shall I say, on opposing teams. Loud ghetto blasters in the dressing room seems to have been a favourite of recent seasons with some.
I think everybody has them now. That's common, isn't it? The music in every changing room's common now. But I think I certainly think back then it was new and it was fresh. But I'm pretty sure the music was awful.
Let's break away from football for a little while to ask about Neal the person. You and your wife Sarah, you've been together for 26 years. You've said that she's not exactly a football fan. So I can't believe that you met at football. If not, where did you meet? How did you meet?
I used to, when I was an apprentice, funny enough, literally the same area that Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon play now at Kingsmeadow. There's an athletics track within the same car park, same area, and I used to go and do extra training as an apprentice with an athletics coach because it was probably the part of my game I needed most work on, and she used to work as a receptionist there. So that was when I first laid eyes on her, and she'd see me coming back in sweating with all my hair everywhere and whatnot, but I finally plucked up the courage to ask her out.
And lived happily ever after?
Up till now, yeah.
And you have two daughters. Tell us about them.
Two daughters, they both hate football as well. I think sometimes, I think it's summed up with modern society when I come in sometimes from a Wimbledon game. You get back in the manager's office about 10 to 5 and I look on my phone, and at sort of 3:15, 3:30, my eldest daughter's tried to FaceTime me on a Saturday afternoon. And I actually ring her up and say, "You do know what I do for a living." That sums them up, but one's at Bournemouth Uni and one's doing her A-levels, so they're good kids.
And what's she studying at Bournemouth Uni?
Events management.
I did mention to you, didn't I, that we have somebody here in the club, Lavinia Pavis, who works for event management, not here tonight, but you will meet her. But there's another member of the family, really, isn't there? What about Lola?
Lola's the Labrador that gets the 2-hour Sunday morning walk when everything's going, so to speak. And you need to clear your head, and she gets walked around the park about 20 times and doesn't know why she's getting such a long walk.
But she must love it. She must look forward to those mornings, surely.
Yeah, I think she knows when we've been beat.
Now, football isn't your only sport, it's your major sport, I accept that, Neal, of course. But you also play golf. Did it help to swing your decision to join Notts County, to come here as manager, knowing that Alan Hardy is the owner of the Nottinghamshire Golf and Country Club?
Never entered my mind, nothing to do with it. Although Coxie was on the phone, because Coxie plays off free, by the way, so anyone that ever gets to play Coxie at golf, he plays off free, he's a good golfer. You might ask the question how he gets the time to be that low in the handicap ranks, so he should be out watching games more, I think. But he's a very good golfer, so I'm sure we'll be visiting plenty. Having
mentioned Alan Hardy, I want to pass on his regrets that he can't be here this evening. He's actually not very well, and you'll be sorry to hear that. He's genuinely unwell, and the result is he's not able to be with us.
Just on that, just a little note on that.
Yes.
I haven't seen him since I joined. So I did the press conference with him and he's been off ever since. So I don't know if it's something I've said or done, but I haven't had one word with him since.
You've just pressed on with the job, I imagine. Now, I'm going to quote back to you, Neal, something that you said when you met the media here for the first time, and that was last Wednesday. You said this: "Building relationships is important to me. I want to ensure we are in a spirit of togetherness at this club, and that includes the fans. We need to have connectivity." Now, would you enlarge on that? Because the majority of people here are your supporters. They're Notts County fans, aren't you? Aren't you? Thus persuaded. Say a bit more about that. what your ambition is to create a club where relationships become important to all of us and not just to you.
By the way, that sounds far too intelligent for me to say. So, I think, I look at, a lot of the times I look at football clubs where things aren't going well. And when things go well, negativity spreads throughout anywhere. There's a lot of criticism, especially nowadays with social media and stuff like that. I've heard it, I've had it before with Wimbledon at times where people start accusing the players of not trying and things like that. I don't think, and I'll stick by this, I don't think players ever don't try. I think sometimes there's a lack of cohesion within the squad, a lack of understanding of what their roles are, and that can lead to it. But sometimes that then relays on to the supporters, and I always believe, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, fans don't expect, I think 91 sets of fans up and down the country do not expect their team to play like Man City every week, because Man City are a phenomenon. What they expect is the minimum requirement is give everything you can possibly can in your effort, in your givens, in things that are in your control. If you give all them, we'll support you. And that's the start point on the pitch, what we and the players can do. If we can get that cohesion and that understanding on our roles and go and give absolutely everything, that's the start point. And then you look at, is a football club more than just a 1-0 home defeat on a Saturday afternoon? I believe they are. And I know that the guys do wonderful work here within the community. And it was something I tried to encourage more at Wimbledon. That kind of connectivity where fans have access to players at community events, players are there for that sort of thing. I think that brings them together as well. And I think as football's evolved over the last 10 or 15 years, particularly at the top end, the gap's grown between the fans and the players.
Yes.
When players start to earn £100,000 a week, it's very, very hard to relate to them. It's very, very hard to, their egos and what comes with them can take them to a new level. And I think football's losing a little bit of that. And clubs, I always call the sort of League 2 and League 1, I call it proper football, because it's football from 25 years ago that's still got the core qualities, and the Premier League now has gone to a level where I don't believe it is. So that togetherness is a call for the players to give everything, absolutely everything they've got, and mine and Cox's job will be to do that. We don't do a blame culture. Win, lose, draw, we're going to stick together, we're going to battle on, we're going to try and be better every day. And then my job is to be honest, both in my press conferences, in what I say. If we're not good enough, if we don't play well enough, I'll be honest and I'll say that. I won't try and dress it up. And I think fans appreciate that as well. If you've travelled 200 miles to watch a game of football, and the manager's then given a press conference after that you're reading that's going, well, that isn't the game I saw, and he's trying to dress it up as something it isn't, that would annoy me. If I was travelling home having made the effort and paid the money, it would annoy me. So if I see the manager saying what he's seen, then I can relate to it, and that's important. But what you need to understand as a manager, when I go in and do a press conference, I have to show leadership. I have to protect the players, because you'll never see me go in and individually slaughter the players. I have to show Alan leadership, and then I have to show you guys honesty. And there's a fine balance between getting all of them things out in a press conference, particularly when you haven't played well, and not giving the players stick or slaughtering them. So it's a difficult thing to manage. But I think with all of that, we can work well together.
But I think togetherness is a very great ambition. But let's move on slightly. The man you refer to as Coxey, who's sitting here, he is your assistant manager. He was in that position at Wimbledon. You've been together for a very long time, haven't you?
Yeah, we both played in England's under-21s together, and we got on well then. I obviously joined Watford. We had 2 or 3 good years together at Watford, played in semi-finals of the FA Cup, the League Cup. We did well there, and then he came to Cardiff for a year with me, so we spent time together there as well. And I always knew, I was always planning to become a manager, but I always knew Coxey would be somebody I want to take with me, because even then, when we was 27, 28, we used to debate football, we used to argue about it, we used to tell each other we were wrong even back then. And that's the sort of relationship I think you should have with an assistant manager, somebody who doesn't give you your opinion, who gives you his.
It's a big week, isn't it? You're in charge for the first time, 24 hours from now, at the Stadium of Light at Sunderland in the Checkatrade Trophy, and then Saturday it's off to Field Mill. I shudder as I say it, bearing in mind that we're visiting the enemy, really. Big rivalry between the two clubs. You're getting ready for those games. How's it been going?
Very good. Obviously, two tough games, as we know, both away from home against teams that have only lost once all season. So we're under no illusions that it's a tough start. But I think we've had a good few days. I hope the boys agree. I think we've had a good few days. They were on a part recovery when we first got in, but we've had a lively Friday, and then Saturday we had a really good session here where we had a big meeting on tactics, how we were going to play, and I thought the boys took it on really well. And we trained for a good hour and a half out here, and they trained really well, and I think they continued that today. That's not to say it's just going to change overnight and we're going to start winning this week, but you know, hopefully we can see some signs of what we've worked on.
Last question. Notts fans, every fan here of Notts County, and many, many more, are familiar with the club being in a relegation scrap, and particularly those seasons which became labelled as the Great Escape. Now, you were engaged in such a battle at Wimbledon when you were manager there in 2013-14, and going into the last match, I see that you were bottom of the table, but on that day you beat Fleetwood to send Barnet down. They got relegated, you, Wimbledon, stayed up. What did you learn from that day and that lesson?
I can't remember it. It was that nerve-wracking. It was a weird one because when we took over that team, lots of similarities to where we are now. Lots of injuries at the time. I think this Notts team's better than the team we had at Wimbledon that year. A few training ground issues that can be improved. There was loads of little bits along the way, but we got to I think it was December the 31st. We were away at Torquay on New Year's Day, and the director was sitting with me having dinner, and he said, "What's up, Gaffer?" And I said, "You do realise we need playoff form between now and the end of the season to stay up." And the look on his face, his face just dropped. And when we realised the points that we needed, he was like, "Oh, blimey." And actually, we finished from January the 1st to the end of the season, we finished 8th in the league. Just from that point to there, and we needed to win that last game of the season to get to 53 points. And that's the most any team's ever had to get to stay up in League Two. So of all the years, Dave Bassett told me in my interview process that I'd need to get above 46. We actually needed to get to 53.
And you quoted 53 points when Alan apparently asked you in interview, how many points do we need to stay up? You said 53, but when he came to retell that story to the media last Wednesday, he increased it by 2 and set 55.
Typical, wasn't it? Typical chairman. So he also said I did an 8-page flip chart presentation. I'm sure it was only 4. I can't remember adding the other 4 pages, but it is, you know, you have to start with the realisation that you have to get a certain amount of points. You have to average out X amount of points per game, and I spelt all that out in my interview. You know, and we've already talked to the players. To win games of football, you need to create X amount of chances, X amount of clear-cut chances, X amount of shots on goal. You know, you need to get them stats in your favour. Everything we work on between the boxes in our structure, in our play, enables us to have the stats in our favour. It doesn't win you games, it puts you in a great position to win games, and then the players do the rest. And we're working on that now, and there's no guarantees.
I'm going to claim the last word in this interview, Neal, and it's this, that everybody here tonight is a Notts County fan, and every single person, it's great when you know that everybody's on side with you, every single person wishes you and Coxey, both of you, the very best in this season as you keep Notts County in the Football League. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.